Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. You guys haven't heard about the Lotus Esprit Turbo S4S in a while. We're going to do some updates on this, and we're going to talk about a game plan from here on out to get this thing back on the road again right after this. So here's Bill. He's actually the owner of this car, and he has ordered all these parts for this vehicle, and it's been a long wait to get these parts. Tell us the story about that, Bill.
Well, typically the turnaround time on parts is about a week from England if you aren't doing anything special. With the Esprit, we decided that it was probably best to rebuild the water pump. So that kind of turned into a bit of an ordeal. I went ahead and I mailed it to England, and it got held up in customs.
On customs, yeah.
So it basically sat there for close to a month before it actually ended up where it needed to go, which was SJ Sports Cars. They're the ones that then rebuilt it once they got it. That was a pretty quick turnaround time once they got their hands on it. I'd say only about 2 weeks or so. And then they mailed it back to us. But between the mailing back and forth and then the rebuild time, we were probably looking at about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have had all the other parts within a week. SJ does a really good job with the parts they send out. So does Dave Bean Engineering. They're another outfit that supplies Lotus parts. JAE supplies Lotus parts. They do a great job too, from what I'm told. I've used a little bit from all three of those suppliers. This time I just decided to stick with SJ.
Right.
They have a really nice website, and they're kind of easy, very user-friendly. I've ordered a lot of stuff from them. So.
It kind of brings to mind a lot of the exotics I've had in the shop is that parts can be a long wait. And it comes to mind that buying expedited shipping on cars like these or Lamborghinis or Ferraris is no guarantee. You probably won't even get it in the amount of time you paid for. You paid for $70, $80, $100 for expedited shipping, and it's going to get here in the same amount of time if you got the free ground shipping. It's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
you just
so
have to do it.
they put these in the mail on a Monday, and I had them at my house on a Friday.
Right.
So.
That's all you can do.
Once they mailed them, it was no problem.
Well, I got a knife here, unless you got one.
I don't have one.
Let's get this thing open and take a look inside.
Okay. So this is well packaged.
A lot of tape they put on it. It's like Christmas time, Bill.
There's about, what, $1,700 worth of parts in here?
I don't doubt it.
First thing I see here is our handy-dandy water pump that delayed us as long as it did. And there it is, freshly rebuilt.
Yeah, it looks brand new, except for the casting.
All new bearings and parts in there.
Very nice.
Okay.
Looks like a clutch tool, yeah. Very good.
Ooh, clutch fork. Clutch fork.
Some hoses.
We were just talking about that.
Oh yeah, the infamous exhaust gasket that always blows, it seems like, unless you do it right with the lock tabs.
Some other kind of gasket that's in there. I don't want to bend that. This looks like an engine seal.
Rear main seal, yeah.
Lots and lots of hose.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the blue belt.
Blue timing belt, yeah.
That's the good one. That's the 30,000 mile belt. They say, what, 5 years or 30,000 miles, which is about what I got out of the one that's currently on there. That was a blue belt that's on there.
Okay. Bunch of accessory belts.
Accessory belts. And then the rest of this, as you can see,
gaskets, head
Quite
gasket.
a bit of gaskets, including the head gasket set.
That looks like an upgraded head gasket.
Very much is an upgraded head gasket. Hopefully that's going to solve our problem with these.
There's a throwout bearing.
Yep. More gaskets, more hoses, thermostat. Oh, impeller for
The little pump that's right over there.
charge cooler.
Yep. Some seals and things, yeah.
Transmission seals and such, I think.
Yep. Spark plugs. A little elbow.
Hopefully you find a place for all these things, Dave.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will.
For some reason, a switch.
That looks like a window switch.
It is a window switch.
Did you order that?
I did not.
Okay, well you got a new one.
I have a window switch. That's different.
We opened our Christmas present, Bill, and it looks like everything's here to put it back together.
It is, and I have an inventory list.
Very good. So here in a minute you can go through and make sure you have everything.
Yep.
Now the game plan here that we're going to do is we're going to get the engine back running again and back together, fully operational. Then we're going to tackle whether or not we need to pull the transmission back and check out the pilot bearing, clutch and everything. We want to make sure we got everything else taken care of first. We're going to actually pull the transaxle back in the car. You just unbolt the CV shafts from the wheels and undo some of the bracing and things in here, and you can actually move the transmission back. Take care of the clutch and the throwout bearing and everything of that nature.
And I just noticed something that's missing.
What's something that's missing?
The clutch.
There's no clutch in here, that's right.
There is no clutch in here.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to running a shop, guys.
So now we got to contact SJ and say, no clutch.
So for those of you that haven't been caught up on what's going on here, this Lotus actually had a blown head gasket. We pulled the cylinder head off, and it was the rearward cylinder. It actually had blown right into the water jacket right here. And that was the issue he was having, with it running rough, and it was coolant coming out of the exhaust pipe and blowing smoke rings. And that's why the cylinder head is off. He also had some issues with his clutch, like we mentioned a minute ago. But this is the main issue that we're dealing with here. We're going to take care of that issue, get it back together, get it running and driving, and then we'll continue on with the transaxle.
So what do you think of this Lotus 907 motor?
I think it's pretty neat. It's designed really well. I wish that they would have, I think the gasket here was the original style gasket when the guy went through it or whatever. I wish that would have been upgraded, but...
So this head's been apart on this. This car has 80,000 miles on it, and this head has now been apart 4 times.
4 times.
4 times in 80,000 miles, and the 3rd time, the entire engine was rebuilt from the ground up.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
It certainly is a very fragile motor.
And you yourself have been in here, inside of here, doing many, many different projects, haven't you?
Yeah, I really have. 10 years of ownership. I wouldn't exactly call this the most reliable vehicle out there. It's certainly not a daily driver. It's not why I bought it. It's not why I own it. But it is a very fragile motor, and you're going to get a number of people in the Lotus community. You know, it's probably 50-50. You're going to get some that are going to say, "Oh, this 4-cylinder motor, it's it's bulletproof. Nothing wrong with the 4-cylinder motor." But you get online and you Google anything having to do with this motor and head gasket, and you're just going to get hit after hit after hit after hit. So depending on who you talk to, I kind of joke around. Sometimes I think that the other half that says this motor is bulletproof are the ones that haven't dealt with head gasket issues, but that has not been my experience and has not been the case with this motor.
Right.
Like I said, 4 times this head has had some
4 times.
issue of some kind, or people have had to go in there looking for problems that this thing has had. I know the 910 motor, the Lotus V8 motor, it has problems with the cylinder sleeves.
Yeah.
It's something that you really don't hear too much about on this, but this one also had cylinder sleeve issues and slippage as well. Like the 3rd time they went in, they found that. So.
Yeah, and also whenever we get this thing back together, we're also going to be installing a boost gauge
Yep.
so that we can monitor the boost levels to ensure, have accurate numbers and know for sure we're going too high, too low, just right, and there'll be no question with that kind of data. But I know that when this thing was running, Bill, you had it in Arkansas when we took it on the pig trail, not very many people could keep up with you.
Yeah, I mean, when it runs really, really
Yeah.
well. But obviously I sped this engine along to its grave.
Yeah, well, I don't
The
know.
turbocharger that I'm running is not stock. The fuel system isn't stock. You know, when you start pulling bigger numbers out of there than the factory intended, you certainly risk
Right.
things going wrong. I don't think with the boost we were running, things should have gone wrong. Like I said, they are these motors are temperamental. There's other people that have had head gasket issues that were running all stock equipment. So, you know, maybe it was just time for this to go. Maybe it was a manufacturing defect with the last head gasket. I don't know. But I did find another gentleman online whose head gasket blew in the exact same spot.
Exact same spot, huh?
So maybe it's a design problem.
Who knows?
It's all speculation at this point. I know is you'll get it going again.
Yeah, we also have the upgraded head gasket, so hopefully that'll solve any inherent issues with the original design. But yeah, I'm excited to get this thing back on the road just as much as you are. It sounded really cool, and it was very, very fast. Very
It's a
cool car.
blast. It's
Yeah,
an absolutely fun car.
it's an amazing car when it's going. Now, once we get this engine back together and it's running great, and we decide that we do in fact need to pull the transaxle, there are those that would go and pull the entire powertrain out and split them in two. But I know that you can remove this cross beam here, and you can also remove some of the floor in the back there, and the transmission will slide back just enough in situ in the car, and you'll be able to get to the pressure plate and the clutch and the throw-out bearing. And that'll be the avenue that we take here. It'll be a lot less labor, keep the cost down a little bit, and it'll be easier on me too as well. It will be difficult to put the timing belt and things back together in the car, but it didn't look undoable. It looks totally doable. And a lot of people have changed out their timing belts on these cars while the engine was in the car, and they were successful. So I don't think that's going to be an issue here, especially with the lift, as I can raise it up and down as much as I need to without wearing myself out and crawling under the car, in and out, and on jack stands or something of that nature. So that's going to make it a lot easier there too. Well, in the recent video you just saw not too long ago, you saw that we bought all these carts and different things from auctions, and we're actually getting great use out of them. I have different carts set up for different parts of the engine that I worked on so that they don't get confused. It really helped me out, and I didn't have to spend hundreds of dollars. These are used carts. And these were very useful too. Harbor Freight moving blankets. I didn't have to spend $500 for a snap-on one. Well, they weren't that much, but it's seemingly so. These are $2.50 per square. Cheap. If you're not too sure what's going on here, check the previous video we did on this before we tore the cylinder head out of there. There'll be a link at the end of the video. You can click on that and you can take you right to the video and get caught up on everything that's gone on with this car and what we found. But just kind of giving you guys an update. The parts are here. We're getting to the point now where we can start putting it back together and get this car on the road. I'm going to be using all kinds of my Wizard tools, putting this thing back together. If you're curious what kind of tools I use, check my Amazon affiliates link below. We also have tools for sale in the UK now, on Amazon Affiliates UK. If you haven't checked out my articles over at Auto Trader at the Oversteer section, you should do that now. You should swing over there and check those out. I've got several articles already there, and I've got more in the works. I'm really excited to write for them. If you haven't subscribed already, you might want to do that too. Many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.